Caleb, the programmer, is invited to this retreat by the CEO to conduct a Turing test on the robot. So for those who are unfamiliar, a Turing test evaluates intelligence in a computer, requiring that a human being should be unable to distinguish the machine from another human being by using the replies to questions put to both. So that's
What's your thought on that?
I think it's
kind of an arbitrary standard, right?
It's a standard created by humans, which it seems like it's gonna be flawed because we're not as advanced as we should be in order to actually know if that test is effective.
Plus, the only way to do the test really is to test it against a lot of people.
Right.
Instead of, you can't just be like, well, this guy thought it. You need to test it against like thousands, maybe millions of people. And see if it works on them.
100%. I agree. And that actually kind of
calling out Turing, right?
We are
calling him out to the mat right now.
Well, it's interesting because that kind of gets at something fascinating that happens in this movie because, the setup, while I think is encompassed pretty well by the back of the box, doesn't reveal what starts to take shape in this movie, where we have Caleb, the coder, who starts to develop feelings for the robot that he's doing these sessions with. Over the course of their meetings, she starts to change her appearance a little bit, seems more human to him. She starts wearing clothes, a wig, even reciprocates some of Caleb's feelings. And this is a little bit of, I have to spoil this a little bit in order to kind of get at what I think is fascinating here. But Oscar Isaac's character, Nathan, seems to have some ulterior motives. He doesn't want to conduct the Turing test in the traditional sense. Mm-hmm. He knows that the robot wants to escape his compound. And so he's interested in seeing if she can use all the tricks in the book to make Caleb fall in love with her and help her. So she'd have to use self-awareness, imagination, empathy, sexuality, all to get him to cooperate. And the CEO has handpicked Caleb for this test because he'd be susceptible to all these traits. So that subtle twist on the Turing test starts to make it more interesting to me because
But also he's picked somebody who is designed to fail.
Right. Yeah. Or at least designed to activate these explorations from the robot.
He's a big giant target. And he's like, hey, shoot this arrow.
Exactly.
And he gives her the biggest target he can.
Right. So for me, that storyline where we're watching Caleb interact with and fall in love with this robot is the part of this movie that I find myself thinking the most about. To me, there's a lot of parallels between this and the strip club fantasy where men go into a club, think they've fallen in love with the stripper, are willing to give themselves and their money to this dancer who makes men think that they've developed a real connection. The fact that Caleb believes that he can rescue this beautiful robot from a perilous situation feels eerily similar. And I find that to be almost I wish this movie would explore that a little bit more because I find that more fascinating than the idea of, is the robot going to get out of the compound?
Yeah. Here's the thing though. This movie is so full of ideas that there's almost no way to explore them all.
Right.
And so you can look at it from a lot of different angles about what this movie is about. And you could like explore that angle of it or by ignoring all these 10 other things that this movie's about. It's about like so many different ideas.
Mm-hmm. I'm also fascinated by this idea of love for inanimate objects. I know that there's entire TLC shows devoted to people falling in love with umbrellas and pogo sticks and cars and things, but
Wait, what? That's a thing?
That is a thing. You can find it. I think there's something different at play here because the robot appears to be human, even though its appearance demonstrates that it's clearly not, at least at the start. This looks like a robot. It's got a human-like face, but it looks like a fucking robot.
But it's a lot. I think we know now that it's a lot easier to appear human than you think. I don't know, like a lot of those like spam emails that snare people in with like, give me your credit card number. Like a lot of those are written by by computers, you know?
Right.
It's not even people. It's not even like a fake Nigerian prince. It's just a computer pretending to be a Nigerian prince now.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not saying it works on everybody, but like, it's working on somebody. Like those robocalls are working on somebody, right? Like,
Right. But, and you make a great point. But if you can see that computer writing the email that ends up in your inbox, I would expect to believe that I'm less susceptible to falling for it. And the character of Caleb in this knows that he is across the table from a robot, and yet there's still something that triggers him and starts to make him feel like, I love this thing, not this person, but this thing.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating to wonder what it is that is making somebody feel that way, if they can feel that way. Upon first viewing it, it might feel to people like, oh, we have this egomaniac in the form of Nathan, the CEO, who's truly a psychopath. And then we have this sympathetic character of Caleb. But I think that both men are pretty fucked up in different ways.
for sure.
I mean, just the notion that Caleb looks at this thing as something that he needs to rescue and feels like he is the exception to the rule and can bring her out and
But that's a human
save her.
response, though. You
It
know,
is.
like he's
It
been
is.
fooled by something smarter than him. But yeah, that's a human response.
It is.
It's more human than the psychopath who is like, I've seen the code. Fuck you. Like,
Right,
I'm
right.
turning her off.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, but like Oscar Isaac has these moments too, where you're like, he's like he dips into humanity. Where like I see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
You know, and he's actually not wrong about a lot of stuff. And he's certainly right about like not letting this robot out.
yes. So, why did I choose this? Obviously, there's some pretty interesting themes at play. I love all the performances. The writing is super sharp. It's a beautiful movie, too. I think this movie definitely rewards a rewatch. I got to say, I mean, really, there's only three actors and characters in this movie, but all of them are excellent. And as you mentioned earlier, we get a phenomenal scene where, out of the blue, Oscar Isaac's character breaks out into dance, a choreographed dance with a fellow robot, and it's tremendous.
Yes.
It tears it up.
Yeah, yeah.